All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is event trader Gavin McGuire, and we are here for the options playbook, which means, of course, that we are being joined by options trader himself, Brandon Mars. Brandon, how are you doing today?
Excellent. How about you, Gavin?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. Just obviously we're keeping an eye on the markets while we're chatting away here. S&P testing that 4,500 level, which is the key psychological area. It's been able to launch through pretty much any resistance levels with that 20 and 50-day moving average here. At 50 still in play to a certain degree. We'll still have to keep a close eye on where it's going to close out, but obviously would be very interested to get your thoughts on today's price action and some of the things that's jumping out to you with this move.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody, I was kind of expecting that choppy week. I talked to my notes this morning about how the indexes yesterday looked like a roller coaster and thought we might be in for that. And all of a sudden, boom, some economic data comes out today. And this is probably feels like the best trading day that we've had in a couple of weeks at least. So, I mean, a lot of green out there and things are looking really strong. And I'm not the best at fading things like this. I know you're great at catching those trades. It's not my strong point.
Not
I
not
was just
today. I got burned trying to fade it today, but
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
such is
throw
life.
salt in the wound there.
All good, all good.
So, yeah, I was just taking a look at just kind of some of my typical favorites, Tesla and NVDA. Yeah, I would imagine maybe at some point you get a little profit taking, but the charts don't exactly look weak at the moment. So things are looking strong. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get those games around this 4,500 level that you just mentioned. But yeah, pretty solid day. And I don't know. I mean, from the quick glance at the daily charts on the indexes, you'd think in theory it would maybe have some legs to it, but take that with a grain of salt the last week of August.
Yeah. Now, is there any particular sector that you're kind of focusing on a little bit more with this move? Obviously, Bitcoin's been a pretty explosive one today, and I know you got in on that coin trade, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But just when you see a turnaround like this, does your focus go to any particular area in the market?
Yeah, usually to the tech names, big tech in particular. Once you get those rates and drops, it just they kind of act as a slingshot higher, generally speaking. And today was definitely the case. And yeah, as I've mentioned a few times, I've got multiple different watch lists I keep, but the one I have right in front of me, I mean, Tesla up 6%, Nvidia 4%, Meta 2.25. So some strength there, and those names can be quite a bit of fun to trade when you get a day like this.
Oh, sorry, I had myself on mute there. I was just doing a quick test. One, two, three. Okay, yeah, no, we should be okay. I'm just going to give a quick service announcement that we are indeed up. So, yeah. So let me ask you, Brandon. Now we've got a move like this. How does this change your your approach for the rest of the week, if at all, on this? We're talking about some of the headline noise out there, a little bit less volume that's going to be in, a little less liquidity, which could lead to some air pockets throughout the course. So, does this move on today kind of change your approach for the rest of the week?
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, I try to not bet against momentum. I mean, I do it, we all do, but I try to, generally speaking, if we have a nice solid up day like this, I tend to try to stay with just on the call side to keep my life a little bit easier. With this strength, if it carries over, I'd probably be leaning towards the calls. The one thing that would maybe make me hesitate a little bit is there's probably some FOMO after today that people are missing out on maybe the bottom. And what a great time for them to maybe do a quick rug pull on light volume to reload on some shares to kind of take us through, an uptrend through the end of the week. So yeah, it definitely changes my thoughts, but with the low volume, definitely want to not get, over my skis and load up on calls. And then of course we got some big data coming out on Friday. So I don't want to, go and bet the farm on calls by any means.
Would you be interested in any sort of downside protection on a move like this? I know a couple of weeks ago we talked about the covered calls, things of that nature. Is anything like that, or do you figure that just with this light volume, there'll be better setups for you down the road in the month of September, and you don't want to really commit too much to a holiday shortened week?
Yeah, I'm not really adding protection. Maybe if I see some of these charts start breaking down, but I mean, again, I'm just watching these couple names. I mean, again, I'm not saying go and rush out and buy this, especially after the move today. But I mean, even Nvidia after I don't know, almost a 25-point move off of the lows today. I mean, that just looks like it keeps getting bought up. So I'm just not overly interested in insurance. What I would do is just not be loaded up on calls and be ready where if the market does all of a sudden shift, I could just pick up a quick put rather than insurance. Well, I guess technically the put would be insurance.
Right, right. All right. So let's break in and talk about some of the trades that you've had, some of the names that have been on your watch list. And I suppose we could start off with just kind of taking a broad look at the watch list. And I know one of the things that we're talking about is anything that you wrote on Monday is just kind of you can kind of disregard to a certain extent at this point because of these moves that we've done. So, why don't you just kind of give a quick explanation of what you mean by that? How today's move has disrupted your early reads?
Yeah, so it's mainly just on the put side. So, kind of with my notes, I had mentioned coming into the week that I'd have things ready for both sides of the table. And, I still have those things sitting on my watch list just in case we do get that shift that I just talked about. But, obviously, if I said I'm watching, Square, for example, watching that for puts because it was kind of just hanging on to that 55 level. Well, with the market up like it is today, I'm just not really looking at that at the particular moment. Again, if all of a sudden the market breaks down and we get a huge amount of profit taking, then it might come back into view. But really, kind of any of my thoughts on the put side, I'm just not interested in buying puts right now and trying to go against this momentum. So that's what I mean in particular. That's kind of gone out the window. And, that's kind of relevant for any trading day. Anytime I put calls and puts on the watch lists in the morning, if the indexes are up 2-3%, well, I'm probably not focused on the put ideas that I put out there, but,
Right.
I always have them kind of in the back pocket just in case, we get profit taking or the markets do break down.
All right. So Square was definitely one of the names that you had on your list, and we'll circle back around to that. Just talk a little bit about the setup at the time that was going on. But let's first kick off with some of the trades that you have made, and two real nice winners this week, starting with NVIDIA, which obviously is always a big name for traders to watch. I'm going to throw it in here, throw it in on the 30-minute for right now. And if you need me to adjust this, but this will at least encompass the price action from Monday as well. So, what was it on NVIDIA that was piquing your interest?
Yeah, I mean, just with NVIDIA, I think that's gonna just kind of be on the call radar, kind of going forward
In
until
perpetuity.
yeah, until all of a sudden they bomb one of their quarterly reports. Yeah, I mean that obviously saw a pretty decent little sell-off after the gap up after earnings. And just again, kind of one of those where it's just a stock that doesn't feel like it's going to be kept down for long. And the markets were tricky yesterday. A lot of ups and downs, and the trends when we got them were really nice, but they were kind of annoying to get to. Um, and right around the lunchtime or mid lunchtime, the markets just kind of started to seem to be building. Nvidia started to build, and just a real nice move from like the 457 level all the way up to almost 470. So a real nice quick move, kind of the exact kind of trend you want to see. Nothing, almost nothing but green candles, couple reds in there. And because it was approaching the 470 level and things have been choppy, took profits on it. And then, yeah, it did. It pulled back and was flat the rest of the day. So that was the right decision there. Unfortunately, I wish I still had those, obviously, with
Ah.
um,
What's the saying? Want in one hand and poop in the other, and see which one fills up first, right? You usually dirtier terms, but that's one of my favorite things to say.
um,
But yeah, no, obviously a nice move up, but it's something you really can't kick yourself on, right? I mean, you went out with a profit, a pretty nice one too at that at for that.
Yeah, I mean, on a choppy month, I mean, because obviously you tend to, or the theory would be you would make more money on your options as you get closer to expiration because you're paying less for them. I mean, there's a couple nuances in there, but that's the general theory. So 70% on a tech stock in an hour or so move on a Monday in August, during the choppiness, I'm not scared to take that profit. And I got to tell myself, if there's more to the upside, then so be it. So, I mean, the call was right at the time. And I mean, I really should have just hopped right back in this morning. But, frankly, I didn't see this huge move coming today, if I'm just being very honest. So, again, it is what it is. That's part of, the choppy environments. And sometimes you got to take a 70% win and you got to move on. And if you miss it on round two, well, so be it.
Yeah, Meta Platforms is another name that you had a really nice trade in, and there was a feedback too that I wanted to address, and the person was just kind of wondering, they seem to be getting pretty impatient with that Meta Platform trade pretty quickly, but obviously you stuck it out, and that ended up being easily the right call. So would definitely want to hear about the Meta Platforms, the setup and everything. Number two, understand why you were willing to stick around so you could explain to the subs, why you continue to feel confident in it. And number three, just your overall philosophy on how much room you're willing to allow a trade to play out before you kind of want to cut bait on it.
Yeah. So would you mind maybe pulling up the 5 minute while I
Sure.
dive into that?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I was actually debating, sending a Facebook message to Zuckerberg asking if he wanted to cage fight me because I was just losing my mind over Meta this morning because every other tech stock was taking off and it wasn't. And it's frustrating when that happens, and it's part of trading, unfortunately. So yeah, you probably could have heard me yelling from my kitchen. But the reason that I stuck with it is on the 5 minute chart. If you look at the first 30 minutes of trading, it builds an ascending triangle. So if you're watching it real time, which I was, tick by tick, wondering when it was going to go, you could see it building and you could see the triangle building. And it was building right under that key level of 290. So, generally speaking, when you have a move higher like this in the overall markets where you just kind of get strength across the board, not always, but you are generally speaking going to see those stocks at some point move. So when I started to see it build right underneath that key 290 level, I wanted to stay with the trade. And then it came in real strong. The volume kicked in just like I wanted to see. And then between 1040 and 1140 on the 5 minute, you didn't even get a single red candle. So, it was building as it wanted to. It really, really annoyed me for the first 30 minutes and made me bang my head against the wall, but I saw it building and I liked the trade, so I stuck with it.
Well, and you put this on what, last Friday? Would that have been? When did you
Let's
place this?
This was actually just yesterday. So this was an
Just yesterday.
overnight trade.
Okay, so an overnight trade. So but you felt pretty confident because where was your entry? Around 289? The stock was trading around 289 when you entered it?
Let's see here. Just thinking back to yesterday on the price. It probably would have actually been more the 290 level because
Okay.
again, it was starting to build under the 290 again, and I think that's what intrigued me yesterday. And then, unfortunately, just hit the chop in the overall market.
Yeah, so basically you just viewed this as simple chop. Nothing was broken in your philosophy. What level would it have need to have dipped down to in order for you to just scrap it?
Yeah, I mean, if that broke the triangle and probably the low of the first 5 minutes down, call it the 288-ish area. Actually, with the triangle there, I probably would have been a little more generous because I wouldn't have been shocked to actually see one big dip down as the head fake candle. So I probably would have been a little bit more generous there. But yeah, if it had cracked kind of those lows of the first 5 minutes, that's when I say, all right, if this isn't a head fake, we got to be done.
All right. So they are your trades out now. You did have a watch list out on names that have kind of gotten blown up a little bit, but I did want to touch upon um, a few of the names and looking a little bit more in depth. The credit card companies was an area that was really interesting to you. You thought you saw some pretty good price action in MasterCard and Visa, while others, American Express, Discover, Capital One looked a little bit weaker. So why don't you talk a little bit about those divergences, and then I guess how this price action over the last 20, 5 hours or so, we'll call it, kind of maybe change some of that thinking.
Yeah, so the reason that I like that is, again, I think a lot of us were coming into the week saying we're going to see some choppiness. Let's be ready to play both sides of the table. Well, out of those five companies, you had MasterCard and Visa. And if you look at the charts on the daily, you would barely know that we had any sort of sell off over the last couple of weeks. I mean, MasterCard's, I think, 0.4% away from the all time high. It's now broken above that. But when I was looking at it, and then Visa was looking very strong too. And then on the flip side, you had these other three names that really were looking like they were ready to fall off a cliff. So the reason that I like to have those, on a particular week like this is, let's say all of a sudden the financials come out and I don't know, some news or interest rates, whatever it might be, or just general market, and the financials overall are weak. Well, those three names are probably going to become pretty good put candidates. And then on the flip side, if they're strong, then you can flip over to a MasterCard and a Visa, and they're probably going to make pretty good call candidates. So I like that in this case. And kind of where it goes out the window is, again, today is strong. I barely look at my put list today. I just don't really want to buy them when the market just keeps going up. But on the potential choppy week like this, I like having kind of those divergences that you find because it allows you to kind of pivot a little quicker if you have both sides of the table ready to go like that.
All right. Does today's price action change your mind on any of these, or does it kind of reinforce the idea that these are pretty attractive names? They just got dragged higher with the rest of the broader market. If we see this market gain tomorrow, these are the names that are going to get hit the hardest. I mean, what's your thinking on this space right now? I guess after today's move.
Yeah, so looking at Visa and MasterCard, I mean, they're still good charts. I'm not saying go out and buy puts or short them or, get out of them by any means. But, MasterCard in particular, that's now almost the whole candle today is above the upper Bollinger Band on the daily chart. So maybe getting a little extended because of this move. Visa, kind of the same, not quite as bad. And then you look at, let's see, looking at like Discover, it's up 0.75%, low volume, which you'd expect today anyway. That's it, and it's kind of still hanging out around that 90 level. And again, the round numbers there usually act as pretty good psychological levels. So not really making a huge bounce off of 90. in theory, you would think that if things got weak, especially in the financials, that one in particular would probably be your most likely candidate for a put. The candle on American Express is looking a little better, but still, that's kind of the same boat, not too far above the 160 level. So yeah, if things do shift, Capital One's probably the one I would null and void since it's up 2.5%, which that's a pretty nice little bounce for it. So
Does that
um,
200 factor in for you at all? The 200
it
moving average at 103.19 there?
it does, and then even more so is probably the fact that this is on 5 days now of inside days from that big move down on the candle on the 22nd. So yeah, now we have 5 inside days. I mean, if that were to break that to the upside, which it's could possibly test this afternoon, then we might look at a move up to the 20-day. It still might not be my favorite call candidate, but that actually looks like it could become a good little trade. But again, I would want to see it break that inside bar.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. And I got the top end of that inside bar at 104.56, right? So that's only about 35 cents away from here. So keep an eye out on that. Let's see. Anything else on these particular names that we're discussing here, Brandon?
No, I think the only other one, I mean, entered into Coinbase earlier.
Oh yeah, coin. Sorry, I forgot about that trade. Another good one.
I missed that news on the grayscale at first, and obviously Coin made a monster move. And then kind of starting at about 11-ish, started making a flag pattern on the intraday chart, and kind of saw a hammer candle on some decent volume come in right before lunch. So I kind of jumped on that as a pullback, and everything else at the time was looking pretty extended, and this kind of came back in. So jumped on that, kind of floating around that 85 level. Calls up 30 cents, give or take. So not a huge amount, but that's one where I'm kind of looking to maybe get back to the highs of the day around 86 and might cut and run. If it's really looking strong, maybe it pushes up to 87, 88, but I probably won't stick around that one overnight. Coin just sometimes gets to be a little tricky. There's a lot of games on that one.
Yeah.
So, when I can take a profit on that, and, plus after a 15% move, it's been down for quite a while. I wouldn't be shocked to see some more upside, but at the same time, who knows what's going to happen, overnight. So, keeping an eye on that one into the close.
All right. Hold on, just we'll be keeping an eye out. President Biden's going to be holding a news conference on his Medicare drug price negotiations, so we'll be watching for that. Okay, just moving along then, Brandon. So you on your Monday comment kind of laid out your thought process on how you're entering the week. Now we're going to go into a little bit greater detail in a moment here on how you generally approach these weeks, but just kind of lay out that Monday morning comment and some of the things that you had in mind, and then we'll circle back around and go into a little bit in depth into your process and on how you treat these weeks in general.
Yeah. So, again, low volume, potentially choppy week. You know, I, I didn't think that the trading was actually going to be as good as it has been this week. Yesterday was a little tricky getting from point A to point B sometimes, but there were definitely some good setups. But yeah, with a week like this, I mean, I'm kind of entering into it with just the mind frame of, let's have some more patience for the week. Again, if you caught some of those moves like a NVDA yesterday, I mean, they were very nice, and same thing on the downside. But you definitely needed to take that time and the patience to really get the confirmation and have some conviction, which they didn't make easy yesterday. That's for sure. And then going in really to plan on trading less throughout the week. I really think that less is more. And if you hit a couple nice trades like a Meta today or a NVDA yesterday, you, you can almost kind of call it a day depending on what your goals are for trading for yourself. But if you hit some 70%, 100% returns on a choppy week, that can kind of make your week if you maybe get one or two a day, and I don't know, go enjoy the long weekend, I guess.
Yeah, so now we'll break into the options playbook, the game theory for this episode, and that is strategies for low volume and potentially volatile weeks. So again, your mindset, obviously, you're perfectly content with trading a little bit less. What are some of the you want to remain patient on your setups? What are some of the things that gets you excited? Like, do you kind of switch gears on which names you would trade? I know you're usually more on the mega cap tech front there and really concentrating on them. I know in the past we've talked about you try to keep a basket of like 30 names or so. I know for me, I'll be a little quicker to trade like a runner or something along those lines. Does that factor in like the names that you're looking at on this trading, or do you try to kind of stay steady and just continue to trade the same names, just using that momentum a little bit more behind you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've really changed too much. Kind of my typical big cap big tech stock, excuse me. So yeah, just kind of watching those, and then I don't know, maybe I got a couple of things that I've kind of looked at, and I expanded my search a little bit this week to try to include some new names and uncover some new stuff, and just in case I needed to switch away from those this week, in case things got too thin or they became too choppy. But I haven't really adjusted all that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Just having one or two names there, like maybe a VFS or something along those lines that's really getting moving this week. That always, it's never hurts. But like you said, you don't want to get too much out of your comfort zone, right? Especially given the volatility that's going to be taking place. How does it expand in terms of your um, where your stops might be in a given trade? How does that impact it in terms of risk reward that you're looking at?
Yeah, I think they make that a little tricky on you on certain days like yesterday, because how many times did we have head fakes before we finally got the moves higher or the moves lower? So, I might be a little bit more generous with those actually, just to make sure I don't get caught in the head fake and then I'm kicking myself 2 minutes later that I, missed the video moving 10 points in an hour or whatever it was. But yeah, I think also just I think I'm more thinking at the same time too that I'd maybe try to rather be a little late to the party than early, because especially when it comes to options. I mean, if you enter into an options trade one candle too early, you could be down 20, 30%. And that obviously gets to you mentally as a trader and, can trigger some of those stops. So, I'd rather get in one or two candles late and, give up a little bit on the upside to not see that downside to begin with.
Yeah, no, and that's good advice because I got to admit that's one of the things that I have a issue with in my own trading that I try to uh, do a better job at, and that is just sometimes jumping in a little bit too early and not allowing for the pattern to play out. So that's definitely some good advice on that front. Now you said something about the first 30 minutes of trade that you kind of change your philosophy on that. What do you do there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm for the most part, again, sometimes this comes back to bite you, but I haven't really been itching to make too many trades in the first 30 minutes. Can't even remember if I ended up. Yeah, I mean, I think my first trade that I threw out there today, I mean, was just I had the meta calls from overnight that I just held. So, that took a while for it to come to fruition. And I was still kind of sipping my coffee and relaxing a little bit in the first 30, just trying to tell myself to take a deep breath and let it play out. I mean, obviously the economic data just kind of threw that out the window a little bit, and wish I was in, a few more trades at the beginning. But yeah, I'm kind of just treating the first 30 minutes this week of just, hey, let's take a breather and see what happens. And if I throw out a recommendation in the first 30, don't hold it against me, because sometimes we see something and sometimes we do get a little trigger finger. But that's kind of what I'm thinking in the first 30 this week.
How about for overnight trading activity? I know you went into depth in I think it was 2 weeks ago when we did that particular options playbook. And for anybody who hasn't had a chance, I certainly highly recommend going back and checking out some of Brandon's past commentary here. But how does your overnight risk threshold change in an environment like this?
Yeah, I mean, again, I might maybe change my tune again today, because I feel like there might be some FOMO buyers first thing in the morning tomorrow. But when we get the choppiness and it becomes a little bit more of maybe a coin toss of which way the market's going to open, I tend to carry over less risk. Something like the meta that I was in that I liked, I'm more likely to hold on to that, but I'm less likely to go out at 3:30, 3:45 and try to seek out another trade. Again, if there's things we can look at on the charts to give us some educated guesses towards which way the market's going to open, but during choppy weeks, it can be a little bit of a coin toss. If we close near the highs today, I would imagine there's going to be some FOMO
Overseas.
traders out there. I would think so, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's generally the theme that you get. I mean, you've got to figure Europe's still going to be extremely light here with a lot of people on vacation, and so I guess it'll come down to Asia. But when you see these tech companies run, usually you get that FOMO bleeding in there as well. So yeah, I would expect Japan and China to kind of pick up where this is, especially China, where things are so beaten down that people are probably going to be start thinking about a little bit of um a little bit of value plays that could go in there, right?
yeah, no, absolutely. So, on a day like today, I might be a little bit more inclined to take a call overnight, because, with this and some of the choppiness and the economic reports, I'd say there's FOMO, but there's probably also some people that might be looking to take some profits that, didn't before. So, on a day like that, I'm not shocked if tomorrow we end up like gapping up and we get a little bit of a fade. And it's nice if you call that
On on the
correctly.
on on the flip side of that, do you feel the same way? If you got puts out there and you're seeing the market diving?
Would I have puts out there?
No, no, you were saying on a day like today, you're more likely to let your winners run here, right? What I was asking is, let's say if you had puts and we were diving down, same philosophy.
Oh,
Y-
yes, yes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Yes,
okay.
no, absolutely. And yeah, especially, I mean, not that I want the market to go down and people's 401ks to get hurt, but if the market's diving and you have puts on a day like today or the end of August, yeah, it's kind of nice to let those ride, because the algos kick in and they tend to do some ugly damage sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, it could give you a nice little tailwind for profitability if you have the right trades on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if that were to happen, I taking a put overnight would probably something that I'd want to do for anybody that was sitting out at the Hamptons and missed the market day and realized that the market was down 2-3% and jumped in that next morning to sell. So yeah, same theory exactly.
All right. So, we talked about the potential for volatility earlier on in the week. We're obviously seeing that end game now. Now you're talking about when markets get really volatile and premiums are increasing. You think it's possibly a decent time to actually start writing some options, right? You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, just general theory on options would be when the markets get very volatile and premiums go up, that's more of a time that you would sell options to collect premium. And I think we all kind of anticipated to go into this week with some volatility with the end of the week, and the end of the week economic data and just the light volume. The reason I just wanted to point this out this time is, I obviously, there's a lot more to the market than me looking at 20 stocks, but I kind of went through 20 of just my usual suspects, Tesla, NVDA, and I looked at the premiums on all of them, and they were really light on a historical level. So, I think we were expecting volatility, but the options market wasn't necessarily pricing that in per se.
All right. Let's see, Brandon. Is there anything else in your notes that we haven't addressed here?
No, I think just one of the main things is, on a week like this, maybe a little quicker to take some profits. Again, if I had held on to those NVIDIA calls, it'd be a home run. And, again, I could have just re-entered them this morning and wish that I had. Again, I was waiting for the market in the first 30 minutes and, unfortunately I missed the move. I just, so many times on these choppy weeks, especially like yesterday, you could see some of those gains evaporate because of the roller coaster. And just, especially for those that are new trading options, there's nothing wrong with, locking in a nice gain on a choppy week.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, and it just makes that week a little bit more enjoyable, right? I mean, you don't have to worry if you're retiring or not. You just know that you made some nice coin, and that nice bottle of red that you're going to get or something is on the house, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game with slow and steady. I mean, I love hitting an options home run just as much as everybody else. But there is nothing wrong, and easier said than done. But I mean, if you crunch some quick numbers, if you were to hit a 50% trade on an option each day of the week, and that's it, again, much easier said than done. You're going to head into your Labor Day pretty happy. So, again, I try to not lose too much sleep over those things these days.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's always a good approach, I find. So, all right, Brandon. Well, anything else before we let you go? I know it's a little bit of a shorter one today, but tis the season, right?
Uh,
Little bit of a holiday break, but you got anything else to add to this topic here?
I just want to actually give a quick update here since I am on the audio on Coinbase. That is now hitting that 86 level, the highs of the day. That 86 call options moved from about a buck 80 up to 280-ish. I'm probably going to look to probably cut and run from that. We might have some upside here to maybe break out above the high of the day, but I might not push it considering it is up 16% on the day and the market's had a pretty solid day. So, I don't know how much gas is left in the tank, so I might not push it. Gonna analyze that here once I get off the call with you and try to provide a quick update on that. But just some food for thought on a pretty decent win on Coinbase. And again,
Yeah,
not a stock I like messing around with sometimes because that has such a group of hedge funds and retail investors and market makers to it that those moves sometimes get a little unpleasant sometimes when they go against you.
yeah, no doubt. This would be a perfect example of being quick to collect when you hit it right, right?
Yeah, I mean, perfect example. Up like 50%, and I can't remember what time I put that in. Around lunchtime. So yeah, in 2 hours, you're up 50%. On an August afternoon, and for me, it's just I don't know. Maybe don't push it. And again, this is one of those things that I talk about all the time. You have the opportunity to roll these trades too. If this were the morning, I'd probably consider it. I just don't know how much juice is left in this thing after a 16% move in one day. So I might not roll it. And again, I might miss out on the FOMO buyers first thing tomorrow. And if I do, I guess so be it.
All right, there you have it. So, Brandon, we will let you get going at this juncture unless you got any other parting shots for us.
No, I think that's about it. I guess kind of keep your head down for the rest of the week. I'd love to see some great trading like this for the rest of the week. I'm not gonna count on it by any means, and just try to make sure that I don't cut myself up too bad after a good day before I head into the long weekend.
All right, sounds good. And just while we're talking here, we're still bouncing up against the 4,500 level, and we do have President Biden coming on. So we'll see if they try to fade the president. They tend to like to fade presidents in the markets, right, Brandon? So we'll keep an eye out on that. But hey, Brandon, thanks so much for all the wealth of knowledge. Certainly the great trades that you're getting out there. I know looking at the feedback that the subs are certainly pretty happy with it. So thanks again for all that information. We'll talk to you soon. We'll talk to you
All
next
right, thanks,
Tuesday,
Kevin.
probably, right? All right. Take care of yourself.
You too.
I am going to just shut down audio here temporarily and we'll restart it. I know that this annoys a lot of the subs. I apologize. There's only so much I could do with the technology, unfortunately. So we're going to start it and stop it and start it back up here in a couple minutes. So anybody's got any questions for Brandon or myself, definitely feel free to write in and let us know.